you know that he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and that he's been rebooted more times than an actual spider can. But we bet we have dug up some facts that might still surprise you. We'll tell you 25 things that you didn't know about our favorite web slinger. But first, make sure you hit the subscribe button to get more videos from CBR. Now let's swing into action.
Could you do me a favor? Hold on to that. Does anybody spy?
Inspiration. We're sure you know that Peter Parker became Spider-Man when bitten by a radioactive spider, but Stan Lee got the idea for the character when he watched a fly strolling along his wall. He was running low on ideas for new heroes when inspiration suddenly struck. He thought that it would be incredible to have a superhero who could do that, but decided on something a bit more impressive than a fly. Teenage trouble. One huge thing that sets Spider-Man apart from his fellow superheroes is his age. At the time, there simply weren't teenage superheroes running around, let alone an entire institution dedicated to them. But Stan Lee's former boss, Martin Goodman, hated the idea. He said that nobody would want to read comic books about a teenage boy. According to Goodman, teenagers were good sidekicks, but that was about it. Not to mention that as a teen, Peter Parker would have plenty of struggles, which Goodman insisted real superheroes didn't have to deal with. The right bug. Making a teenager a main character was one huge risk taken by Stan Lee, but he knew that a fly man just wouldn't go over well. So he tried out many other insect-based superheroes before ultimately settling on Spider-Man. We could have easily had Insect Man, Mosquito Man, or just plain old Stick-to-the-Wall Man. But Lee's boss, Martin Goodman, hated spiders at least as much as he hated teenagers. He declared that people are afraid of spiders and definitely wouldn't want to read comics featuring a man who behaved like one. Amazing fantasy. By now you might be wondering how on earth Spider-Man got made since Martin Goodman hated the idea so much. Well, thankfully, Stan Lee realized that he had something special on his hands and enlisted artist Steve Ditko to help. He designed Spider-Man's now iconic costume, and he had Lee work out a sneaky plan. They snuck Spider-Man onto the cover of what would be the 15th and final issue of a series called Amazing Fantasy. Since it was at the end of its run, they figured that they had nothing left to lose. The public responded in a huge way, and letters began pouring in begging for more Spider-Man. More than Parker. When we hear the name Peter Parker, we immediately think Spider-Man. But over the course of the comics, there have actually been 13 different people to become our favorite web slinger. Over the years, there have been clones, imposters, and alternative realities, which add up to a ton of different Spider-Men. Relatable. There's also another alter ego to Spider-Man that not many people know about, and that's his creator, Stan Lee. He said before that out of all of his creations, he relates most strongly to Spider-Man. He's also compared the character to the biblical character David, who famously fought the massive Goliath. Besides that little battle, David was also saved by the web of a spider at some point in the tale. Fantastic Four. Many movie fans have always seen Spider-Man as a lone wolf character, or at least a lone wolf spider. But he actually has a long history of trying to team up, since before he hooked up with the Avengers. At one point in his early days, Peter Parker was hoping to join up with the Fantastic Four to earn an easy paycheck. However, he lost interest as soon as he realized that the Fantastic Four is apparently a not-for-profit organization. Fantastic Four, again. At another point in the comics, Spider-Man decided that he could stand to do some pro bono gigs for a change. An alien named Delilah captured the members of the Fantastic Four and started up a new one. This dream team of hers featured Spider-Man along with Wolverine, Hulk, and Ghost Rider. While this is undeniably an amazing group of superheroes, they ultimately disbanded, although they did reunite occasionally. Romance. When you think of Spider-Man's romantic life, his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Mary Jane, probably comes to mind. But she's far from his only romantic partner. Although he's often portrayed as a bit nerdy and awkward, Spider-Man is regularly making out with ladies all over the Marvel Universe. There's Kitty Pryde, Black Cat, and Captain Marvel, just to name a few. And then, of course, there are the more traditional relationships he's had with Liz Allen, Betty Brant, and Gwen Stacy. Radioactive. We all know that Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider, but it looks like he's going to have to make some awkward calls to everyone in his little black book. During the Reign storyline of 2006, we get a glimpse into an alternate reality in which Spider-Man looks up his old flame, Mary Jane. Well, more like digs her up since she's long gone. He then reveals that more than his blood is radioactive, and swapping all of those fluids years ago is what led to her demise. Remember kids, be careful when you're slinging web around. Parents. Most people know that Peter Parker was raised by his beloved Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Although things are a bit different in the movies, his parents Richard and Mary Parker were originally secret operatives. They worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. and lost their lives soon after Peter was born. The Red Skull caused the plane that they were flying in to crash, and they never got to see their son Peter grow up as a result. Defeated. It may seem like as long as he can get back up, he's still doing well. The truth is that Spider-Man has lost his life a number of times. In addition to the countless alternative universes where he passed away, we have seen him come and go plenty of times. In Uncanny X-Men number 191, we saw him get crucified by Cool and Gaff. But then Doctor Strange and Illyana turned back time and it's like it never happened. In Secret Wars Volume 1, number 11, Doctor Doom takes out Spider-Man, but is later tricked into bringing him back. Planned Parenthood. We've seen Spider-Man pair up with many people over the years, but his partnership with Planned Parenthood might be the most strange. Yes, in Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Prodigy, there's an alien going around spreading lies about our sexual health, and only Spider-Man can stop him. It sounds like we're describing a fever dream, but we promise this comic actually exists. Clone Saga. Remember when DC tried to create the Justice League movie to ride on the coattails of the Avengers? Well, at one time, Marvel was trying to catch up with the popular Death of Superman and Batman Nightfall story arcs. So they decided to create the Clone Saga, which featured Spider-Man and is one of the most hated storylines in comic book history. Oh, and there's the fact that it was so horrible it led to Marvel declaring bankruptcy. Bankruptcy! We weren't kidding about the bankruptcy thing. There were other factors, sure, but Clone Saga definitely didn't help. It was so bad that it turned fans off of Marvel's most profitable superhero. In 1996, Marvel was forced to lay off a third of their employees and declare bankruptcy. However, the silver lining of all of this is that it forced Marvel to explore a new avenue of revenue, namely movies. So you really have Spider-Man to thank for all of your favorite Marvel films. Barack Obama. It's no secret that Spider-Man has met a ton of interesting characters over the years, but he also had the pleasure of meeting Barack Obama back in 2008. Peter Parker was assigned to cover his inauguration, when all of a sudden 2 versions of Barack showed up. Thankfully, he saved the ceremony and the day. Turn off the dark. You know how fans of Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds don't really like talking about Green Lantern? That's how Spider-Man fans feel about Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. This is a musical, yes, musical based on Spider-Man. Oh, and the music is supplied by Bono of U2 fame and The Edge. It was the most expensive Broadway production in history, but was widely panned by critics. We'll just say that it's exactly as good as you would think a musical about Spider-Man involving Bono would be. Josh Hartnett. You probably remember Josh Hartnett as one of the biggest heartthrobs of the 90s, or you may know him from his recent work on the show Penny Dreadful. But for a long time, he kind of fell off the face of the earth, and that's because he made some bad career moves. We're talking like turned down the chance to play Spider-Man bad. Not only did he decline to play Spider-Man, but he turned down the role of Batman as well. He said that he didn't want to be pigeonholed as a superhero actor, so instead, Batman was played by Christian Bale, and it clearly ruined his career. Donald Glover. Although he wasn't offered the part, nor did he audition, somehow the internet decided that Donald Glover should really be the next Spider-Man. They started a Twitter campaign about it, and it got a lot of attention, but no audition for Glover. Although Stan Lee even claimed that he would support the idea, Glover said nobody even asked him about it. Finally. But it turns out that the power of social media did sort of work out after all. Because of all the hubbub created by the Twitter campaign, Donald Glover got to voice Spider-Man in Disney XD's Ultimate Spider-Man animated series. John Watts, the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, knew that he had to find a role for Glover in the movie, even if it wasn't Spider-Man himself. So that's how Glover finally made it into a Spider-Man film, and he didn't even have to wear an uncomfortable suit. An interested buyer. During his time on Earth, Michael Jackson made a series of very strange purchases, from a pet chimp to a carousel. And there was a time in which he was in serious talks to buy Marvel in the 1990s. Michael Jackson wanted to play with Spider-Man. Plain and simple, and felt that the only way he would get to do so would be by purchasing the entire company. Not in the cards. But as we all know, this didn't happen. But Stan Lee had some thoughts on the matter. He stated that he thought Michael Jackson would have made a very good Spider-Man, although he did call Tobey MaGuire's performance wonderful. Lee claimed that if Jackson was in charge, the future of Marvel would have ended up very different than it has at this point. He also wondered if it would have been as successful, since Michael Jackson wasn't known for his excellent business skills. James Cameron. James Cameron has made no shortage of great movies, but did you also know he almost came close to making a Spider-Man film? It turns out that Cameron is a huge Spidey fan and was looking forward to the project with the approval of Stan Lee. But then the project got derailed and Cameron was forced to work on a small film called Titanic instead. By the time the project became available, Cameron had moved on. Tobey MaGuire. At this point in time, there have been many actors who portrayed Spider-Man. For a while, Tobey MaGuire was synonymous with the role, but he had to beat out many other actors to get there. Originally, much more conventional actors were approached, including Colin Farrell, Heath Ledger, and Ewan McGregor. But after some screen tests, it became clear that MaGuire was the right man for the job. Crime. Creating Spider-Man involved 100 sets and hundreds of crew members. There were also multiple Spider-Man costumes valued at $50,000 a pop. So when a few went missing, Sony Pictures was very eager to find them. It turns out that a former Social Security guard had helped himself to several of the costumes. When his place was searched, they discovered that he had also stolen a $150,000 Batman costume. Now that you've learned 25 new things about Spider-Man, which of them did you find the most surprising? Tell us which fact shocked you the most in the comment section below. And then hit subscribe to get more videos from CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.